Hey y'all, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad we could hang out again today. Today I am starting a new kind of vlog series, I suppose. Essentially my plan is to document the process of plotting, drafting, editing, etc. of one of my projects, the Nature Fantasy Project. Essentially it is something that, it was a project that I had started brainstorming a little bit earlier this year and kind of got stuck on it. If you've been reading my newsletter, if you followed my newsletter, I talk about this a little bit in that. And essentially the original premise just was not sticking. It didn't really click with me. So I set it aside for a little bit, and I've since had some inspiration for the story, the world, the characters, the premise, and it is going to be going in a completely different direction. And so I kind of decided that since I'm back at square one, it might be a really fun idea to document the journey of writing the story. So anyway, today, and this week, my plan is to get a general idea of the book's premise, and figure out like the basic idea of the story. This may take a little while because the most inspiration I've had is on the world building, not so much the premise. So I will hopefully make some progress with that this week. I have a new notebook that is just for this project. It's green because the Nature Fantasy Project. I also have a Campfire Write folder, and my battery's about to die, so I'm talking very quickly. Anyway, so I have that, and then I have a few other tools that I'm using. I'm using the Novel in 1 Year roadmap. I will probably loosely follow this. I don't think I'm going to follow it exactly, because this is a side project. This is not my main project, so I won't be upset if the timeline of writing this novel is exactly the same as what they have laid out there. But yeah, I'm just gonna loosely follow it, and so this week is focused on the basic premise, and so we shall go ahead and get to planning that out, and I will take you along with that journey. Okay, it's a couple days later, but I did kind of get the basic premise down for my Nature Fantasy Project, and I've kind of I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the premise that I came up with. But, I'm kind of wondering, like, I'm okay with the premise that I came up with. I have a character name, in the story in a year, breakdown thing. They have 5 things that they want you to figure out for your story premise: the character, the situation, the objective, the opponent, and the disaster. And I think I've gotten the basic for that. I mean, obviously, as I kind of say, you can change this however you want, whenever you need to, as you're plotting, things might change. So this is kind of a loose premise. But I have the character now. It has changed, her name has changed from the original idea to what it is now. And the reason for this is because I'm kind of basing the locations in this story loosely off of like a blend of real world places. So it's not going to be strictly like from this country or this country or this country, but kind of a blend. But anyway, to keep true to that, I wanted to have names that were from those locations, or at least inspired by those locations, if that makes sense. So I did change the name, and I changed a little bit about the who she's with. At my original story, she was a bit of a loner, but in this one, not so much. But anyway, I came up with a character and her name, and I think I've come up with a situation. I'm not sure if I'm happy with it, but I think I am. It's enough to go off of. It's enough to get my gears rolling and decide whether or not I can continue with this. So anyway, I have the character in the situation. The objective, again, that is where it slightly falls apart. I'm not sure what her objective is. So that is something I'm going to have to flesh out some more. And I think that's something that will continue to come to me as I plot and flesh out the story. I think that her objective will come to me as I'm going through that. So I'm excited about that. I'm not completely 100% sold on the objective that I have right now, but I think it's coming. Now the opponent, again, I kind of have a pretty, because of this situation, I think the opponent is pretty clear, because that person impacts the situation. They cause the situation. So I think I'm pretty set on that. Again, I did have to change it from the original idea, which is totally fine. But I think I like how it's coming in this instance. And then the disaster, I am still not sure if I like where I have it right now. I think, again, that is something that's going to have to change, or might change, I'm not sure. But at least it's a start, and that's what I'm trying to tell myself in this instance, is that it's a basic premise. It's not supposed to be exactly what I think is going to be at the end. I don't know. I'm just playing with this idea, trying to figure out where it's going to take me, and yeah, so anyway, those are my 5 elements that I think I've gotten. My main character's name is Anya. Yeah, and she's got a group of misfits that she travels with. That's the character. And they're forced to flee their homeland because of the antagonist and his oppression against her people. She and a group of others are forced to flee their homeland in search of a new home and a new place to live. So I really like how that story idea is going. I think it's got a little more depth than what I had originally. And yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. But again, that is me working out the basic premise. I don't know what the disaster is going to be exactly. I have an idea, but I don't really know. I'm not set on it. The next section in the novel in 1 year is doing the story skeleton, and that's where you start getting more of the bare bones of the story figured out. So I might be able to figure out what the disaster is in that category, but we will see. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The one thing though I did learn about this process is the fact that, as I tell a lot of aspiring writers, is I encourage them to experiment with a bunch of different types of plotting, drafting, all that sort of stuff, because each story requires a different thing. You know, I don't know if starting with a basic premise for this story was the right place to do, especially because I started with a world building idea. Like, I have a feeling of the world, and so I didn't really start with the basic premise, and I don't know if that's where all authors should start, because for each story the idea might come to you in a different way. You might have an idea for the world, you might have an idea for the plot, you might have a scene in mind, you might have a character, and depending on what the initial spark was, will, in my opinion, determine your approach towards drafting and ultimately finishing the story. I feel like this was going to be a good experiment. Writing the novel, or following this novel in 1 year plan, will be a good experiment, but I think what I would encourage is to take it, but also like maybe shift it around to suit whatever you need. I don't think it needs to be set in stone. I don't think it needs to be quite so rigid. I think you can take what you will and then let go of what you don't want. But I think it is a good outline for being able to know how long it should take you to do each step of the process, but I don't necessarily believe that this is the exact order you need to do. But I'm going to try it, I'm going to see it, I'm going to experiment with it, because I enjoy doing that. But yeah, if you wanted to try it but aren't sure if that's the way you want to do it, you don't need to. It's up to you and what you think works for your story. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully the next video in this series will be me fleshing out the story skeleton. And at that point I will be figuring out some more of the bare bones of the plot, and maybe I can figure out this disaster. But yeah, let me know how did you start plotting your most recent story? What was the thing that you leaned into the most? I'd be curious to know what you guys did. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing so you can continue watching me during this journey of writing and editing my nature fantasy project, along with other writing projects that I do. And yeah, that's gonna be it for me today, guys. I hope we can hang out again sometime soon, but until then, I hope you have a very blessed day. Bye!